My name is Lachell Workman. I'm a 2018 to 2020 resident in this museum studio program. My work explores the cultural iconography of memorial t-shirts. I'm often thinking about the relationship between the t-shirt, the monument, and the memorial. And my work looks at this relationship between the body and the land, particularly the way that Black and brown bodies enact memorials with their own body. I'm just thinking about the idea of the memorial t-shirt as this wearable memorial that's worn on the bodies of people who are still living. And in some way, I am curious about the ways that, our history of pre-existing memorials, pre-existing monuments, and who gets to be memorialized, who gets to hold space for remembrance. And I'm also interested in the ways that we see these rituals exist mostly within Black and brown communities.
And it was a spiritual breakthrough. I heard the word the spirit ever.
In 2011, I was trying to wrap my mind around this notion while I was preparing for the homegoing service of my own brother. It's forever left an impression on me of how I really was still struck by this idea of, what photo am I going to select? What is the text going to be that's going to be on the shirt? Who makes the shirt? What happens once this is made for all of us? Will I participate in this collective act of mourning, this collective act of support that is kind of, visually represented between, this kind of group of people wearing this shirt? And in many ways, it kind of functions as this uniform for those in mourning. And, I was particularly remained interested in this idea. In many ways, what I'm trying to do is not only mine this history of where these customs come from, but also acknowledging in some way that these rituals of things such as the street side memorial, the memorial t-shirt, in some way seem to be born out of a lack of pre-existing monuments and memorials for Black and brown persons, especially persons who have lost their lives due to acts of violence, or people who've experienced untimely deaths. What is that link? What is that link between using one's own body versus perhaps having a space to collectively join, to collectively gather, to collectively mourn? Within my work, I work between photography, sculpture, and installation, particularly working with non-traditional materials, infrastructural materials such as asphalt. This use of asphalt has been most active within my work throughout the past 5 or 6 years. And this started when I was in my MFA program at SUNY Purchase between 2013 and 2015. I was experimenting with staining the t-shirt, trying to stiffen it, trying to find some sort of active body within some other form of material abstraction that did not ask so much of the Black body. I find myself wanting to be really engaged with the land, something about the cracking of the asphalt, which often, is out of my control, thinking of these moments where you kind of surrender to the material. Like within my work, I'm constantly teetering between this thought process of the body and the land, particularly the Black body within the inner city landscape that is often void of, large memorials and spaces for collective gathering. And within this time of the shelter in place, I've spent most of my time reflecting on this work, reading, writing, doing research about my own history with mourning, And the majority of my work that I've made within the past 5 years, I think greatly about inner city landscapes. I think about how people live in proximity to this post-industrial emptiness within the landscape. For example, I think about what it means for my entire lifetime, for the duration of my mother's entire lifetime, for structures to just be empty, but to be in such close proximity to lived space. thinking about, this kind of neglect, the neglect that we often see within these inner city landscapes. I was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I often recalled, driving through Bridgeport with my grandmother and my grandfather and being told, this used to be the old Remington Arms Factory. There's such this particular way in which, people recall, the different businesses, the different ways that these spaces used to be occupied. And for me, those are so closely linked to the memorial t-shirt. They're so closely linked to this desire to have memorials, to have monuments that highlight these aspects of the landscape that are so essential to collective memory.
Yes, 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 yes. That was a song called The Valiant Soldier. It was written by none other than Sojourner Truth for the 1st Color Regiment of Michigan, who went out to fight the Civil War. She wrote that battle. So today, in honor of Sojourner Truth, I want to begin with a walking meditation. And in that meditation, I just want you to find a comfortable pace. I want you to unfurl your arms. If you have your hands balled up in fists, I just want you to shake them off. Shake off any stress from today. Roll your shoulders back. Just throw your hands to the sky. Release, release, release them back to your side. Put your head back and look up. Enjoy the moment where you are and look forward to where you are going. And as we walk in unison, I ask that you begin to tell the truth to yourself about your life, that you begin to tell the truth.